Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan, and do you want to have a bit of a taste of the end times in Total War Warhammer? More specifically, pretty much Nagash's forces and how Arkhan the Black's faction should play. You see, Arkhan the Black is of course a Tomb King in the Tomb King DLC, but he plays very similar to that to these other Tomb Kings. I mean, let's be completely honest, the moment you start getting rid of your early vampire count units, you have no reason to play as them anymore. So I've got a mod here known as Arkhan the Black Expanded, and it brings more of an end times feel, that of the Legions of Undeath, where you could mix up units of Tomb Kings, vampire counts, and in some cases a few vampire coast units too. So let's not waste any more time and jump right in. Your campaign will continue as normal. This isn't a complete overhaul mod, but rather a flavor pack more than anything. So first off, something new is the fact that you'll have access to the geomantic web, known as the necromantic web here. It will act in the same way as the Tomb King's geomantic web, and I know that that's not the most popular mechanic, though it does add to some flavor. With this, you'll be able to get a lot more benefits when it comes to provincial bonuses, and it kind of has that whole roleplay aspect, as of course Nagash kind of linked up different areas. It's the whole necromantic power moving about and so on, so it kind of fits well with the theme. They're not too overpowered bonuses too, so it's not like it's very needed. You can more or less ignore it and not have to go by a specific chain, but it will give you more of a sense of something to do differently, as pretty much every Tomb King campaign plays exactly the same, doesn't it? Arkhan will get access to the lore of vampires, which admittedly is a very powerful lore, especially Wind of Death, but it does make sense to give him this lore of magic, as of course Arkhan learned directly from Nagash and was there around the time of the birth of the vampires. He must have picked up a skill or two. Admittedly, there are a lot of skill points here, but this way you can focus yourself more around magic than making him a melee lord, or you can pick and choose what type of spells you want yourself, have a little bit of a mix of two different lores. What you would have noticed before is Arkhan has a unique skill tree, but all generic lords will also get access to this, and it focuses around all the vampire count units, so you can buff them up. These are all the generic type of bonuses that you can expect: extra armor, charge bonus, missile resistance, and so on, but it's very needed, especially if a vampire count roster is going to be available here, as eventually you don't want those units to kinda be worthless, right? This is also reflected in the construction tab, as you have a few new buildings which will increase the unit capacity and allow you to recruit these vampire count units. Yes, your vampire count units will also be on the unit capacity, as of course it makes sense for the Tomb Kings. The capacity increase increments isn't too bad, so you will be able to field vampire count armies without a problem, or mix them both up and have a healthy mix of both. There's a few unique landmarks too, but I'm not going to show them off, as that kind of ruins the fun of going to explore for yourself, though you will more or less guess where you have to go, you know, the Black Tower of Arkhan and a few others, and it will give you some pretty good benefits, so I do suggest going for them if you can. The technology tab has also been given a few extra technologies to reflect the fact that you have vampire count units too. It will give you some bonuses which are more vampiric: extra attrition, of course being able to frenzy, more vampiric corruption, and so on. The great thing is you will also notice there's extra army capacity tech here too. Everything here does link up to your research tree though, so if you do research something here, it will take longer for other things to research unless you start taking over more cities. You will also notice the fact that there are some special techs, and these are all linked to special buildings, and of course all the landmarks I was telling you. They will provide some pretty tasty bonuses, and some of them will also increase capacity for your armies. The great thing about this mod is the fact that extra tech is here to unlock armies, which means that you won't have to spend so much money in canopic jars early on. You will have to in the future when you need more, but this does help. Let's be honest, the whole starting off with, what was it, 200 canopic jars and 10,000 gold is a little tedious. Through a submod, you'll be able to make your campaigns a little bit cooler, as you'll be able to get bloodline lords, but in a different sense. You won't need blood kisses or anything, but instead canopic jars, and there is one different lord dedicated to each of the bloodlines. This is the only way that you'll be able to recruit vampire count lords. They're all pseudo-legendary heroes, and some of them even have some really cool stuff, unique mechanics which would not be available to the Tomb Kings. All of them will also have some very good bonuses, to be honest. Some of them are faction-wide, some of them are just base for an army, and they're quite powerful, of course, because you're going to spend a lot of canopic jars. It's fun to use them early on, but you might need the canopic jars for other stuff. Remember that you'll still need to use canopic jars for all the other stuff, and early on, it's just not so viable until you get the ball rolling. The Vampire Coast Legendary Bloodline Lord will also have access to the Lore of the Deeps, which I believe this is the only character through this mod that will give you access to this lore of magic for the Tomb Kings. Other than that, it's all the same type of skills that you can expect, and it works out quite well, as you will be able to recruit some Vampire Coast units with this character and this character alone. And yes, before you ask, she is a pseudo-horde, which means that you'll be able to recruit and move as you go along. You'll be able to build up some special buildings and get all the benefits from the Vampire Coast, but keep in mind that you will not have the full complete roster. You'll have a very small amount of different Vampire Coast units, the basic gunners, of course some Prometheans and so on, but the main thing is obviously this is more a reinforcing army, and you can obviously recruit Tomb King units too, or Vampire Count units. But no, don't expect the big guns like Queen Bess and so on to be available to you, which would be fun but a little bit ridiculous. My only real complaint surrounding this mod is actually this character, as perhaps the buildings are too expensive for just one character. Of course you can re-recruit her and she'll still have them and so on, but you know, some of them cost 10,000, and for the Tomb Kings, that's a bit much. The Lore of Vampires will feature heavily throughout your campaign, as you will now have a Lich Priest who has access to said lore. It's not the only new hero, you will in fact also be able to get a White King, but this is the most important thing, as if you like Winds of Death, like many of us do, you have access to it, don't worry. Another unique style legendary lord, well pseudo-legendary lord, is that of the Strigoi, as you can recruit him through the standard canopic jars system, and he has some pretty cool stuff. He will act more or less the same as a standard Strigoi, of course having those skill bonuses to all the Vampire Count units too, so you can do a lot of extra damage, and yeah, Terrorgeist mount because that's essential. But a really cool feature for this character specifically is that he'll also be a pseudo-horde, very much like the Vampire Coast one. A few buildings here and there with different buffs and stuff, and a very limited roster to be able to recruit directly. What's also great about this is it focuses wholly on monsters, so you know, direwolves, bats, ghouls, Terrorgeists and stuff like that. It's just pretty cool because that gives you that feeling of this is an actual Strigoi. Generally on stuff like the tabletop, the Strigoi lords were pretty much mostly fielded around monsters and so on, so you get that really cool feeling. Again, maybe a little too expensive on the buildings, but other than that, that's all my complaints. So this mod is absolutely massive. You can see your possible unit options here on screen right now, and that's not even all of it. I couldn't fit everything in, and I couldn't fit the Vampire Coast units in either. The reason why I wanted to showcase this mod is, of course, Arkhan deserves to have a bit more flavor. How it works in vanilla at the moment is just not good. But I must admit that I had the purest nostalgia bug here during the end times, as this is pretty much what you could expect from a undead end times list. It was just the Legions of Undeath. So it was really nice reliving that whole glory day because it was an absolutely brutal list. And yeah, you might say that this mod's a bit overpowered, but then keep in mind the end times was pretty much overpowered for Nagash's forces. I'm imagining that if we do get anything Nagash wise when it comes to Warhammer 3, that we'll start to see something like this. And I wouldn't be against it because at the end of the day, his armies deserve to be as varied as possible with a mixture of, well, the Vampire Counts, the Tomb Kings, and the Vampire Coast. This mod represents it so well, and I actually had a lot of fun with this. I played for way too long. Normally I give around a few hours or so to play through the mod, but I must admit that I've been playing this mod pretty much all day yesterday because I'm still stuck in isolation, so this was actually quite nice. I really recommend this mod if you want something cool for Arkhan. I really enjoyed this, and if you want to give it a try, you can find it in the description below. Keep in mind there are a few submods, and you can find the submods directly on that Steam page. Here's hoping Arkhan gets something like this in the future for his own dedicated patch or something, because he really does need to be a bit more different. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.